Hello, I am Rachel from 7 and All, and today I'm going to be taking you along with me on a plan with me for the next week of homeschool video. I use the homeschool lesson planning minimalist notebook from School Nest, which you can get on Amazon. I will link to it down below. I really like this because it's just simple, straightforward, minimalist. It fits what I need, and because it's not very expensive compared to other homeschool planners. I did buy a slightly different School Nest minimalist planner for the next, whenever I use this one up. But yeah, I'm gonna turn the camera and show you how I plan for a week of kindergarten and preschool. All right, now with the School Nest minimalist planner, you get 2 page spreads for each week. This is the first one, and then the second page spread looks like this for your weekly plan, kind of your grid and your boxes. And you have a lot of flexibility, obviously, in how you fill this out. The way I use it is that I use the rows across the top for the days of the week. And then I put notes in the last section over here in case you can't read that. And I'll just, this is if I need any extra notes or if I have any extra little memories that I wanted to remember related to that subject or little milestones made, I will typically put them there. Then on the other side here, I will write down our subject areas, and everyone splits these up a little bit differently. I take the probably strange approach of putting both math and phonics in the same box, because for my kindergartner it's pretty simple what I write down, what we do for math and phonics, so they both fit in there quite well. I put math and phonics in the same box, and then I have a box for our morning time where I can just record what we read for morning time. Then I have a box for our Beautiful Feet books around the world study, and I'll jot down what we did for that. Then for Sunlight Science, we're currently using Sunlight Science K. After Sunlight Science, then comes Spanish. I try to keep the same order of subjects every week just because that helps me to get things categorized accurately by using the same ones. Then here I have one box that's just specifically for my preschoolers, my 3-year-old's little work, anything dedicated to him. He joins us in a lot. He joins us in morning time. He often joins us definitely for science, for Spanish activities, but this is more dedicated to him. And then here I use this last box for if we play a game, a certain kind of game, or if we go on any kind of special outing that day, or anything kind of more extra and fun. So I'll just fill out the grid, and I typically do this planning session on a Friday afternoon. That's when I realistically do it, between when the work of the day is done and before I start getting ready for dinner. And my boys will be interrupting and all of that. It works out really good for us that way. But for the purposes of this video, I am filming this when my boys are out. So just to make it a little bit calmer and more focused on the video. Then it should be noted, I don't make a plan for any of these subjects, and I don't fill in anything over here before we begin the week. I fill these out as the days go, or at the end of each school day. I fill in, what lesson we did in math, what lesson we did in phonics, what we read for morning time, what I actually did with my preschooler. That's what's getting filled in during the week. I don't put anything here during my Friday afternoon planning, but I do jot down some notes over here. And I don't plan for anything I don't need to plan for. So what that means is for our math curriculum and for our phonics curriculum, I don't plan ahead what lessons we're gonna complete this week. I just do the next lesson every day. And so for anything open and go, science, pretty much the same. I just know that I'm gonna be doing the next thing in science on the next day. I don't, unless there's some special extra activity I had in mind to add in, I don't plan anything. But I do, some of the curriculums I use do require a little bit of planning. So I do pull out the guides for what I do need to plan for, which is for Gen Home Classical Preschool, requires a small amount of prep and planning. We are going to be on Unit 20 of Gentle and Classical Preschool this week. Thankfully, I have this book, If You Give a Moose a Muffin. Yay, I actually have the book. And I'm just gonna take a wild guess that the handicraft is making muffins. Wow, look, I was right. They have gluten-free banana muffins. I already have a favorite banana muffin recipe with cinnamon, and that does not include nuts. But we will definitely make muffins. My boys love to help with baking, and I love banana muffins. So I'm gonna put muffins on the list, and I'll have to remember to write on my grocery list to get bananas. So that will be just jotting down what our handicraft is, our main book. Oh, I can also check and see if I have any of the extra books that they mention in this guide. I'll do that. Oh, you know what book we have? We have Are You My Mother? And that's a really good one, and I have not read it in a while. We actually have it in Spanish. So I'll jot down Are You My Mother? That's a good one for M. ¿Eres tú mi mamá? Are You My Mother? That was one of my boys' favorite book when he was 1 year old. And we've read it quite a bit, but we haven't really read it in a while. But I do check in the guide for any extra books if I have any. These are books that connect to the concepts we're learning about. I don't have any of the rest of these, but hey, I have one. And the other part of getting ready for Gentle and Classical Preschool is switching out cards. So I keep all of our cards for each unit in like the current cards we're working on. So these were this past week's cards. I keep all of these in one little pouch, and I get them out in our morning time, and we go through all of the learning statements. We talk about them, we sing them, discuss them, memorize some of them, discuss. These are great. We love these, find these very, very effective. And so it's a really quick process. I have all of my cards just in little pouches, and I will take out, so this is the math pouch. I'll take out the math pouch, the math card, and replace the 10 card and move on to our next math concept for this week. So I have separate pouches for all of the different subjects, and I'll put them all together in one pouch for the week. And that is part of my planning and prep session. And having all those cards helps me to know what we're talking about, discussing, and if I need any other ideas for the week. Another little step of preparing for preschool is checking what the math activity scheduled for this week is. And they have that as part of the weekly grid. We see preschool math at home, lesson 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3. So I just pull out preschool math at home ahead of time, and I look, okay, all of these are comparison activities. And I can read the instructions. We're comparing, looking at more and less with physical activities. And then there's a fish in the pond activity, which part of Gentle and Classical is the morning binder, and they actually have little fish and fish ponds that we can use for this. So I'm gonna jot a note down that we're focusing on comparing quantities this week, and can use the fish ponds. Then I'm also going to make a note that we're going to keep working on number identification. My son still needs practice on that identification. Got to spell and talk at the same time. So we like to do a lot of flashcard games. So this is just a little mental note and reminder. Well, it's not mental because I wrote it down. A little reminder to myself to continue using the flashcards and do matching activities and identification activities, matching numbers to quantities. We're really trying to solidify those number skills. Just do fun, little active, run around, match the flashcard games. And this is just my really short notes on little goals for preschool right now. Oh, I guess I can point out also, this is the letter M. So a lot of times he'll ask to paint during the week or do some kind of craft, and then I can be like, okay, here, you can paint whatever you want, but you can also paint a letter M, and I'll just draw a letter M on a piece of paper. Simple things like that. But this, just jotting down a few notes helps me to keep in mind some of the things that I do want to accomplish with him in the week. Then, for my kindergarten student, the biggest thing that needs planning for him is the Around the World with Picture Books curriculum from Beautiful Feet Books. This one, most of his curriculum is pretty open and go, but this one needs a little bit more preparation and just kind of identification. What are we doing in this week? And we're going to be learning about France, a new country to us. So we're introducing France, which means we're using the maps book and coloring the map, coloring the flag, and the first couple of lessons we've got a lot of art here that we'll get to look at, so I will need to pull out the guide when we're doing these lessons. But the first couple of lessons are all focused around the book called Anno's Journey, which is a wordless picture book, and I think it's really cool. We'll get to have little discussions and identify different things within the book. But what I've learned from previous experience with wordless picture books is my sons don't find them the most satisfying. They still want an actual story. So I'm going to pull in another book in my collection. So while we're going through Anno's Journey, I decided I'll pull in this book, which is This is Paris, because this is a pretty long book, which might be tough to read in a single setting. So I think this will be it's kind of factual, non-fiction, scenes from Paris, landmarks around Paris. So I think this will be a good one to pair with Anno's Journey so that we also get a book that actually involves some reading in it during our intro week to Paris. And I think we'll also introduce Eiffel Tower and do some notebooking about that as well, since Eiffel Tower is mentioned and talked about in the This is Paris book. And maybe I'll just jot in a note here to plan some videos. Not sure what what videos there are yet. The Beautiful Feet Books guide has a lot in here, quite a few lessons actually for Paris. We're going to be reading The Little Prince. They have recommendations for extra books. I also have a book on Jacques Cousteau that I can incorporate. We can also we can color some pieces of art from that book. Oh, I have this book on Monet, so we can read that. Plenty to do when it comes to France. And then we have a couple of animals to include from their nature connection. I might try to include one or two animals this week. Maybe I'll jot down the horse. We can investigate that a little bit. And videos, I like to kind of do travel or landmark videos, travel type videos to just see the scenery of France. But this is probably realistically what we can definitely get to in a week. So plan the future lessons and the future readings and books we'll do for next week coming up. Sometimes I have a little bit of planning to do about science as well, but for now I can just jot down that for science, I know we're still learning about plants. This will be our third week on plants and seeds. We've had some fun investigations of those so far. At the moment, I don't believe that the experiment for this week needed any extra prep, so I think we're all good on that. Now for weekly goals and notes, in this section I actually will probably write down things that I need to remember to do as far as remember to print. And I know I need to print the Chinese worksheets for this week's lesson. My son is learning Chinese through Little Chinese Learners, which most of the lessons and games are online, but there are also physical worksheets to do, which I really like, but I do have to remember to print them by the beginning of the week. And if there's anything else to print for the week, I will also jot that down here. I don't believe there is at the moment. So not a whole lot of prep on this side of the page. If we do have something big going on in our week, I will note that down on the schedule if we have some kind of event. or day off or holiday coming up, I'll write that down, but there's nothing crazy going on this week. So that is my short and simple minimalist routine. These are really the only subjects I find myself needing to plan. The other things, we just roll from one thing to the next. With Spanish, we're just pulling the next worksheet or working on the next lesson in our reader. So there's not much need to plan. Oh, that's what I need to print. I need to print us off some new Spanish song sheets because he's mastered all the songs I had printed. So I need a few new Spanish songs because that's the one thing that's not really part of a curriculum. I'm just pulling that in to get us singing more in Spanish. And I found that having a physical sheet for him to look at, even if he's not reading fluently, does seem to help with having him grow in confidence with his singing. So yeah, and I'll probably try to come up with 3 or 4 so that they can last us for a while. But yeah, this is my planning routine. Now throughout the week, I'll use my different colorful pens. Colorful pens bring me joy. I am no pen snob. These are Crayola brand pens, which I don't know what makes a good pen, but I've had these for over a year and they're still working. So that's what I like in a pen. But yeah, that's my planning routine. I hope that it was kind of helpful to see it in action, and I'll be seeing you next time for more nerdy homeschool videos. Make sure to subscribe. Bye!